Hi, my name is Arun and today is January 21st of 2015 and I'll be presenting a basic setup of MySql master-master replication today. As part of it, I'll be covering a few scenarios. First would be how I would set up a master-master replication. I will try to break one of the masters and see how that reacts, and eventually try to maybe fix it and see if I can bring it back to the point where it was broken. Then I will change it to a master-slave configuration and then bring in one of my shell scripts that I've already written to make my life easier. The intent of shell script would be to identify if the host is a master or a slave. And if it's a slave, it would go ahead and check if replication is working as expected. So that sounds like a lot I'm trying to achieve here, but all the scenarios that I just mentioned are actually just categorized into 4 parts. So the very first thing would be, like I said, master-master setup and test it. Then break the master2 and test it. Restore master2 and test it again. And finally, master-slave test using shell script. So let's get started. Now I have 2 hosts here. My first host is C9324S154 and the second one is C9324S156. I have 2 sessions of each host so that I can toggle and move back and forth quickly. Now there are already some pre-work that I have done. First thing is I've already installed MySql database on both of these hosts. So if I go to the host 1 here, you can see that this is a Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system, and I got my tar file and then I used RPM to get the packages, and MySql is installed. Same is the case with my other host. So at this point I'm actually ready to connect to my MySql. So let me do that real quick. So that was the first host, and similarly my second host here. Okay, so the database that I'll be using to do replication is MySql. So I've already created this database. It's an empty database at this point, and the same database also exists on my host too. Now there are some more pre-work that I have done. One of the most important part is configuring my.conf file. So let's take a look at that. My.conf file comes as part of your MySql install. There is a default file, and you can set all performance parameters within this file. So I've just done a very basic setup here. As you can see, I've set up these 3 parameters here. So what are these? First one is log-bin, which is nothing but the binary log. So MySql server logs all statements that change data to the binary log. And these are the logs that are used to actually perform the replication. So it's very important to set a valid path here. Server ID is a unique number you give to your host. This is the way I can distinguish between my master 1 and master 2. Now server ID here is 1. If I go to my other host and do the same thing, you would notice that its server ID is set to 2. So 1 is my master 1 and 2 is my master 2. And the last part is bin log do db. Here I've actually mentioned which database I'm going to be replicating. Now I can add more DBs here, so I can do my second DB, my third DB, and so forth. But that's not in scope today. We are just going to try to do replication of this one database, which is MySql. Now, before I move on, I would like to point out that this was just a very basic setup that I've done in my my.conf. There are far too many parameters that could be set. For instance, here I just pulled a template of my count from the web. And as you can see, you could do a whole lot of other things like set up your max connections, your query cache type and size, the buffer size. So a lot of performance tuning related params can be handled with my.conf as well. Okay, very well. So at this point, I have two hosts. I've done my configuration, so I'm ready to kickstart the replication. So let's start that. So I've already logged into my MySql here. And first step I'm going to do is flush tables with read log. Flush tables with read log is kind of placing a log on the database and saying that, hey, this is the point from where I'm going to be starting replication to the other database. It's like no more commits, or that's the cutover point. Once I do that, I'll do a show master status. And the very fact that it's showing me an output with all these values tells me that I've set up my binary log path correctly and it's doing what it's supposed to do. Now everything within this is important to me. I'm going to make a note of it because I'll be using it in my command in the other host, the host 2, to start replication. I want to make a note of the file, which is logbin0006, position 120, and this is of course my database. I want to point out that these logs are by default located in val lib MySql. So these are the logs we are talking about. So right now the last write was in this log and the position is 120. Now we need to have a pseudo user to perform replication of data between these two hosts. So I've already created that user using this command here, create user. This is my username at any host identified by password. And I've also granted replication slave to that user. So that gives the permission for the user to actually perform replication of data. I've created this user on both the host because it's a master-master setup that we are trying to achieve. Also, I want to point out that this grant cannot be done on per database basis, but we can always control that in our my.conf file. Okay, so at this point, after making a note of these, I'm ready to go to my host 2. And first command I'm going to give is stop slave and then reset slave. So this way we're making sure everything is starting fresh. By fresh I mean the reading of binary log is how I'm going to define it to do right now. Now my main command is to change master to master host. Make a note that I'm giving 154 here and I'm issuing this command in 156. So I'm saying my master is going to be the other host. And I'm giving the replication user, the pseudo user that we just created. And I'm giving the master log file of what we made a note of and the position 120. So let me grab this command, go back, make sure I'm on 156, enter, query OK. And then finally, I'll do start slave. Once that is done, I can go back to my master one and unlock tables because I had locked it at the first place, and exit out. Now this flush table with read log command that I issued initially is only to the session, so that's why I exited out of the session, and hence no more locking. So at this point, one-way replication setup is complete. I want to repeat the same steps on other host or the other way around. So I'm now on my host 2 or master 2, and I'm going to be giving flush table with read log here, show master status, and make a note of these two here. Go to my master 1, connect back to MySql, and do stop slave, reset slave. And now I'm going to give it this command, and again, if you see, now I'm on master 1, but I'm going to be saying, hey, the master is for you is 156, which is the other host. And also I'm giving the relevant log details and position, etc. So I'll grab this, make sure I'm running it on master 1, and boom. Finally start slave, go back here, unlock tables, and exit out. So with that, my master replication should have started. The very first test I'll do is I'm going to give this command called show slave status G. And if I go up, I can see that my master host is pointing to 156 with this relay bin log file. Similarly, if I go to the other host and give the same command, show slave status G, well, here it's pointing to 154, and that's the relay log bin. So everything looks good at this point of time. So let's move to some replication testing now. Okay, so I've come back to my master 1, and I'm going to be creating my first table in the database. Name of the table is repli test. And then show tables, and there we go. Now this table should have automatically already been replicated to my host 2. So let's see. Here's the moment of truth. Boom, there it goes. So my table is created here as well. So I know that the replication from master 1 to master 2 works fine. Now let's try the other way around. For that, I'm going to be issuing a command in master 2. So let me go ahead and drop the table that I just created. But this time I'm going to be doing it in master 2. So drop table, MySql, enter. Show tables, making sure it's gone. And going back to my master 1 and do a show tables again, and it's gone here as well. So that confirms that my replication is working both ways. Master work. So with that, we have completed the first part here, master setup and test, and now we can move on to breaking master 2 and testing that.